Another COVID-19 infection confirmed in Muskoka. North Bay Parry Sound Health Unit responds to concerns about its reporting cases. And two local students talk about their experiences with e-learning. All that and more coming up right now. Welcome to Cogeco News for April 14th. I'm James Bowler with what's happening in your community. And to our top story, a new confirmed infection of COVID-19 in Muskoka. This time a woman in her 80s in Muskoka Lakes who had recently traveled. She's in self-isolation now. This comes after a Muskoka Lakes man in his 80s died in hospital last week after contracting the virus. Meanwhile, the province has called for a 28-day extension of the emergency declaration, and that will affect schools, which means kids won't be heading back on May the 4th, according to Doug Ford. The province is also expected to give an update on a new plan to help shore up defenses at long-term care homes. And joining me from his home office now is Mayor Graydon Smith. Graydon, thank you very much again for taking the time once again.
No problem. Great to be here.
Graydon, we had sort of an interesting weekend, which I kind of want to talk about before we move into the updates from today. Now, I think anybody with eyes could see that there was quite a bit of traffic coming through the area. So, I know that you and a few other officials, and even provincially, there have been calls to, people not to come to Muskoka. Once again, those requests seem to have fallen on deaf ears. So just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, it's, I think in many ways unfortunate that people aren't heeding all the public health advice and are picking and choosing what they want to follow. Originally it was, me saying don't come up, but now it's the Premier, it's Dr. Tam, it's Dr. Williams in Ontario, and over the Easter weekend there were clearly more people here than at any other time in the last several weeks, which means not only did people come up and stay up, people are just coming up now, and what I really hope is that there isn't ongoing travel between Toronto and our area and back to Toronto and back and forth. We have to accept the fact that I think some people are here. If they're here, I hope they stay here and at least, stay somewhat self-isolated and ride it out at one spot rather than multiple spots.
And we haven't really seen this surge yet that's been sort of hinted at, that's, hanging over us. So is there still concern, do you think, for the hospitals to suddenly get hit and have all these people in the area that could be, needing the services?
I don't think it takes much. I think there's a Walmart worker today in Barrie that, or maybe two of them that have tested positive. And, you think about the number of interactions that can take place, usually at the, the retail level, whether it's groceries or some other transaction in the stores that are still open. And I think, that's how it can spread quickly. Regardless of whether there are cases in the community or not, there's still a finite number of resources, both mechanical, like ventilators and beds, and on the human side with doctors and nurses and others that are needed to, provide care when it happens. So, I'm very happy that nothing's happened. That's everybody's goal. At the same time, I think it's a little bit foolish to assume that nothing will happen. It could happen tomorrow. It could be happening today.
So let's talk about this extension of the emergency declaration in Ontario. That was just announced today. The Premier has, and his body have agreed that they're going to extend these measures for another 28 days. So again, curious about your thoughts on that and how that could impact Bracebridge and the tourism industry and everything in Muskoka.
Well, we've talked about the health side a lot, and obviously that's the primary concern, is the health of the public. And I know that's the motivation behind what the provincial government is doing. At the same time, business owners that have been, scared and concerned about the future of their business and their own personal incomes and the incomes of their employees, I think are, wondering even more so today, when does this end? And I'm not saying that it should end or the orders are in any way inappropriate. But the longer we are not operating normally, the more people are going to be impacted by this. And another month of this is certainly a long time. I suspect it will be even longer than that. So it just continues to be more and more difficult for people whose livelihoods are centered around normal daily life, which isn't happening.
And finally, Graydon, there's been discussion, and there's going to be details coming tomorrow on shoring up the protections of long-term care homes and staff. Anything in particular you'd like to see, and considering Bracebridge has quite a few long-term care homes as well?
Well, I know that there's a move afoot through the legislation to limit where employees can be, so they have to pick one home and stay there. These homes are in some ways underserved already in terms of the number of people it takes to make a good home, and the number of personal support workers and just everybody that makes a long-term care home click. So on one hand, this puts more stress on the homes, but more importantly, I think it does provide an opportunity to stop the outbreaks that we've been seeing in long-term care facilities, because it's just devastating to read the news every day and see that yet another home has had a major outbreak. So obviously limiting the amount of contact and the number of people that are in and out of any given building should hopefully have some positive effects, but those positive effects will probably come with more stress on the existing staff, and they're in a pretty tough spot already.
All right, Mayor Graydon Smith, thank you very much for taking the time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We are going to take a break, and we'll be right back after this. Welcome back, and we now go to North Bay for an exclusive interview in their studios. North Bay Perry Sound District Health Unit Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Jim Chirico, stopped by on Good Friday to discuss the ongoing coronavirus pandemic with YourTV's Clark Heipel.
We had an issue with global shortage of testing kits. We didn't have the lab capacity to do it. So we had to really be careful as to who was being tested, and there were priority populations that were being tested. But what we do know is that because of the low numbers that we have, we've tested over 520 people, and the positivity rate, which means that we've only had about 2 out of 100 cases tested that turned positive. So that was very encouraging, and we would like to believe that that is because people are staying home. People are doing the 2-meter distancing, but we won't know for sure until more widespread testing is available, and now we've been told that we can go ahead with more widespread testing.
And timing is everything, and this could be a perfect storm with the Easter long weekend. It's a time to get together with family, and politicians, medical experts, including yourself, are urging folks to stick to the household and not visit extended family.
Yes, that's correct, Clark, and thank you for raising that, because I think it's an important message that we want people to celebrate Easter and the holiday, but do it with your immediate family, those that live within your household, and don't be inviting relatives or friends or neighbors over.
And now we want to discuss masks. I have two masks here. One is where you can buy in the store, which are hard to come by, and people are making homemade masks. Right. Let's start with the store-bought mask. Would you recommend someone wear these?
Well, first of all, the recommendation from public health is to stay at home, and the recommendation is to do the 2-meter distancing. Masks don't stop you from following those kind of instructions, and that's important. Now, the mask that you just showed was more of a medical mask, and we want people not to use those. We want those to be for medical personnel, for the healthcare providers. Now, the other ones that you said are homemade, and what we call those are more facial coverings. Now, the facial coverings, if worn correctly, may help, but they have to be done properly and used properly. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages. The advantages to using those facial coverings are that it may help reduce the spread of your own germs to other people. And the other aspect to that is that if somebody inadvertently gets too close to you, it potentially could give some protection. And the other thing is that they're easy to make. The disadvantages are that some people may be prone to touching the face and adjusting the mask, and we don't want them to do it because it could increase the risk of infection. The other thing is that we don't want people to get a false sense of security and think that they can go out into public. You should only go out for essential trips. And the other thing is that they may feel that, well, it's going to protect them and they don't have to do the 2-meter social distancing.
Now, there has been a lot of discussion online, our social media channels, on our channels and channels around the country. Why isn't more information being released about positive cases? And you have a very good reason for that.
Yes, we do. And I understand people's frustration, and some people are even angered by it. We understand that. But there is an important reason. First off, it's privacy of health information. When a test is positive, there's provincial release of some information, which can be travel history, gender, and age. And if we, in addition to that, if we release the location or the community, some communities are small enough that people will be identified. They'll know who it is. And personal health information needs to be protected. I'm sure every one of us would not want our personal health information to just be distributed. So it is the law. We have to protect it.
All right, we are going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back after this. Welcome back. The studies have moved from the class to online now. But how are local students dealing with this change? I checked in with 2 local students to find out. For nearly a month now, schools across Muskoka and Ontario have been closed due to COVID-19. These steps in Huntsville that are usually so busy with kids haven't been used for weeks, and the building is dark and empty. But that doesn't mean there isn't still learning happening. It's just moved from class to the internet. YourTV Muskoka got an inside look at how these kids are dealing with this new way of learning by speaking to 2 students from Huntsville High School, Kennedy Watson Brown and Sydney Brinklow. Watson Brown says she's pleased with the setup so far.
I'm very much a learner who needs to be in class, but right now I think it's going really well having the interaction online, and I'm still able to use Google Classroom, which is really helpful for writing and reading, and so I have access to all of those like websites and technology, and so that's been really helpful. This first week has been going really well, though. I'd say I didn't know what to expect. It's all very brand new to me, using Google Meet, Skyping in, stuff like that. But no, it's been going really well.
While students aren't physically in class, they do have interactive in-class sessions, which Brinklow says is helpful to keep her on task.
Most teachers have gotten structured time frames of when we are in class and not in class. So they'll schedule meets and kind of work period times, like a guideline of you should be doing this much work per day. So it's kind of open-ended on when we choose to do the work, but we know like during the day, there's certain periods of time where the work should be completed. And it's usually by week that they assign work. So it's not day by day, but it's like throughout the week, you're going to have these projects. So when you can get them done, but we'll be working in these sections of time. Because when we do the talks online, everyone else in the class is on there as well. So you can communicate with other people in the class, not just the teachers.
And how are the girls feeling about being away from their friends during this pandemic?
It's hard not being like around my friends and stuff and just stuck at home.
I'm kind of introverted, so I mean, I still keep in contact with my friends just to make sure that they're okay and their families are safe and well. I wouldn't say it's taken a real toll on me yet. It might in the next few weeks, depending on how this goes. I'm just really making sure that everyone is safe and healthy and they're practicing their social distancing right now. It's just really worrisome, and so I'm just making sure that they feel okay right now.
Now, it was just announced today by Premier Doug Ford that emergency measures, including school closures, will be extended another 28 days. That means schools will not be opening May 4th. So these students will need to get used to doing this type of learning for the foreseeable future. We'll likely check in with Kennedy and Sydney as well in the future. Now, the YMCA in Muskoka has not physically closed its doors, but its services are still very available.
Yeah, listen, the YMCA here in the Huntsville region has been operating in our community for over 15 years, believe it or not. We've been providing innovative solutions for job seekers and employers, and we continue to do that in these really, really challenging times. As a community, we've come together and realized that employment and helping people navigate this current labor market is important now more than ever. And so the YMCA continues to provide supports, as I said again, to job seekers and employers. So for people that have been temporarily laid off or are still looking for work, someone is actually knocking on our window as I speak, just showing you the value of the service we have. We have people literally knocking on our doors. Although we are closed to the public, it's important for people to recognize that they can still access through the telephone, and through email. And we're also doing video conferencing where people have the opportunity to do so. What I will say is, James, is that we will bounce back from this. Employers will be in a position where they're going to need to hire again. This will not last forever. And when employers start hiring, they're going to want people to hit the ground running. And so now more than ever is a better time to kind of tool up your skill sets, brush up on your resume, look at your interview skills, look at your personal network, and we have the capacity to do this. The YMCA over the last 2 years at least has helped over 450 to 500 people receive reemployment. We have about an 80% success rate in getting people employment or back to education. We've put tens of thousands of dollars back into the economy by supporting local employers with wage subsidies and training upgrades. And right now, we're actually, again, understanding we can't get people into our building. We do have what we call window shopping for jobs. And so we are putting current and relevant job postings on our outside facing window on our building right now. The reality is there are employers in critical needs sectors that are hiring, grocery stores, healthcare facilities, senior centers, construction sites are all still looking for qualified staff.
We've discussed a lot about the human connection, the human condition during COVID-19, but what's happening for the pets and the animals in need, and what can you do to help? You can find out after the break. Welcome back. Well, animal centers are closed to the public during the COVID-19 pandemic, and with that comes some extra costs as animals will be staying a bit longer.
This is a very unique situation. So, while the animals are with us, it's still standard that we have our animal care staff going in. They have been deemed essential, and of course they would be. Somebody needs to care for our furry friends. So, our staff are still going in, still providing all of that care. Of course, everything regular that goes on with feeding, any medications, and of course, if any of our animals, of course, need to see a veterinarian, we'll address those situations as well. So that sort of gives you an idea of why we are needing the fund at this time to help us to keep running smoothly as we are. And then there's also a secondary piece that's a little bit new to us, and new to, I guess, maybe many people right now, which is that we have our 310 SPCA phone number, which people can call if they need help, whether it be, a lot of people are out of work right now, so they may be experiencing financial hardships. Perhaps they're having difficulty getting access to food or necessary items for their pet. So they're calling us, and we're getting quite a bit of those calls. They've grown quite a bit since everything's been going on. So we are, of course, taking these calls in and triaging them as necessary. Whether that be, talking to people about how we can make a financial plan, with a veterinarian, a local veterinarian for them so that they can afford that care. Maybe we can help get them access to food that's easier for them to utilize. So, with all that going on as well, of course, that's sort of changed the scope of some of our work. And again, really trying to support our communities. That's the number one thing, and make sure animals are staying home. We want animals with their families at this time. That's the best place for them. So how can we help people do that?
And so if you want to help out then with these, funds, how can they do that?
So the best thing to do is check out the website, and that's the best place because, of course, donating online is the best way to do it right now with trying to stay home. The website is urgentanimalcarefund.ca, and on that website you'll also see a great list of all of the participating SPCAs and humane societies. So we were able to, of course, have our animal centers be supported, but there are affiliate communities that are involved as well that also need support. In some of the smaller areas across the province, they're also seeing the same changes we are, and they need a little bit of help too. So we're encouraging everybody to visit that website, check out the full list of locations, and if you have the ability to donate at this time, we would be so grateful.
And don't worry, I know a lot of you are missing your cute and cuddly fix, but as soon as all this calms down, we get back to normal, we'll have Pet of the Week back. But for now, when we come back, we've got a recap of all the local COVID-19 headlines for today. Welcome back, and as promised, here's a quick recap of the local COVID-19 news from today. A new confirmed infection of COVID-19 in Muskoka, this time a woman in her 80s in Muskoka Lakes who had recently traveled. She's now in self-isolation. This does come after a Muskoka Lakes man in his 80s died in hospital last week after contracting the virus. Total confirmed cases in Muskoka now is at 14. And of course, you can always stay up to date with YourTV's local COVID-19 coverage, either online through our website, yourtv.tv, or on our Facebook page. That is Cogeco News. For more information on the program, head over to yourtv.tv. Connect with us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter with YourTV Muskoka. And remember to catch us live at 5 Monday to Thursday. From everyone here at Cogeco News, thanks for watching. Stay home and stay healthy.